Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out in Middletown land. We want to welcome you here to Fowler Field on the campus of Middletown High School. It is spring football. That's right, you heard it right. Spring football in Section 9 here in New York State. As you all are fully aware, our football season in 2020 was postponed due to the COVID pandemic and switched here to March. We have some ball games here at Fowler, beginning this evening with the Middy Bears taking on the Pine Bush Bushmen. Before we hand it off to Mr. Jeff Shuko, our public address announcer, for some pregame festivities, we want to go over where we're at here at Middletown High School when it comes to our high-risk sports during this COVID period. Here at Fowler Field, we have some spectators in the stands. Each player was allowed 2 individuals to join them here. They are appropriately socially distanced with masks in place as well. So we want to thank all of our spectators here. But we want to thank all of you out there at Middy Land for joining us this evening on Middy TV. Tell your friends they can go over to the school district website, which is www.middletowncityschools.org. Hit the Middy TV icon and you're all set for a nice action of football here at Fowler. It's about 55 degrees outside with a little breeze, which is supposed to come up a little bit stronger. Right now they're doing our pregame coin toss at midfield. Number 75 for the Middy Bears is Isaiah Jackson. And as soon as I get the number for you for the Pine Bush side, we'll tell you what that captain is. As you can see historically, number 1 for Pine Bush is Christian Walker. And as you can see, typically there's 4 or 5 football players out there representing as captains during the coin toss. But in this time of year, with everything going on, it's just one individual captain for each team. The Middy Bears are coming off that 2019 season, which was up and down. A lot of ups as they were undefeated, 6-0 going into their 7th game before an ineligible player issue reduced that total. Middy Bears ending up 5-4, just out of the playoffs.
Middletown
after
has
Washington
won the toss. They've deferred.
Defeated Monroe Woodbury. And Pine Bush ended up winning. So the Middy Bears have deferred. They've won the toss. They've elected to play defense to start. Pine Bush will have the football. We'll hand it off to our public address announcer, Jeff Shuko.
Following individuals: Miguel Lugo, Walk Hill football senior; Tim Conley, 20-plus year official for Section 9; Fred Ahart, Roscoe head football coach for 50-plus years; and John Ford, Section 9 football chairman. Please join with me in a moment of silence to recognize these men and their accomplishments. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please remain standing and face the flag as we honor America and our soldiers that are stationed at home and abroad with the playing of our national anthem.
And there you have our national anthem, folks. We also want to let you know that prior to our national anthem, we did have a moment of silence for 4 individuals who impacted in a positive way Section 9 football. As we lost them since our last football season, they include 20-year-plus official Tim Connolly, Section 9 football chairman John Ford, Miguel Lugo, a player for the Wallkill Panthers who recently passed away, and Mr. Freddie Ahart, longtime 50-year-plus coach up in Roscoe. Once again, we want to welcome everybody here to Fowler Field on the campus of Middletown High School for Section 9 football. The Middy Bears hosting the Bushmen of Pine Bush. Pine Bush won the 2019 championship. Middletown was undefeated going into their last couple of games in 2019 before an ineligible player cost them the forfeiture of some of those games. The Middy Bears just missing out on the playoffs. You'll also note we are missing some very valuable individuals here who usually assist me in play-by-play. And we want to give a nice shout-out to legendary former head football coach here at Middletown and East Stroudsburg Hall of Famer, Mr. Dick Wolfslayer, and Mr. Ed Tucker, who's on the field helping to coach the Middy Bears this year. Number 15, Jermaine McCray in to kick off for the Middy Bears. On the near side for the Bushmen, going back to receive the kick will be Christian Walker. And we're getting ready here. It's a short kick, a squibber that goes out of bounds over near the 43-yard line. That looked like it was a planned kick. Pine Bush will take over in good field position here, 1st and 10 from their own 44-yard line. Once we get some of the players lined up here for Pine Bush, we'll be able to let you know who's going to be leading the team. Already have a whistle to start the game. Looks like number 3, Danny DeGroot, is the quarterback for Pine Bush, and it's a straight handoff up the middle. Solid gain for the Bushmen. Number 7 on the carry, Gunnar Milland, comes from good pedigree over at Pine Bush. His brother was a standout for the Bushmen in past years. He opens up with a gain of 5, 2nd and 5. Isaiah Jackson with the stop for the Middy Bears, 2nd and 5. A give once again, Milland with the football. This time the Middy Bear front line does a better job at stopping Milland. Picks up a couple of yards. It's going to bring up 3rd down and 4. From midfield for the Bushmen. Middletown looking for an opening drive stop. Danny DeGroot under center for the Bushmen. It's the pitch back to number 1. Might have been fumbled on the toss. It was intended for Christian Walker. After the fake to Milland, and the Middy Bears recover on the opening drive. The option pitch to Walker. Fumbled. Jagger Blofeld, as well as Jaden for the Middy Bears. Jaden Farrell on the recovery. 1st and 10 Middletown at the Pine Bush 49-yard line. A good start defensively for the Middy Bears. Middletown is led at the quarterback spot by number 6, Dalton Howell. Dalton had an outstanding year in 2019. Howell from the shotgun for the Middy Bears. It's handed off. Number 22, Bell for Middletown. Down the sideline, has a good gainer for Middletown. Enough for a first down near the 38-yard line. Rodney Bell for Middletown, number 22. Picks up about 12 yards on the play. First and 10, Middletown at the 38-yard line. Bell with an outstanding rushing year in 2019. Hopes to repeat that this year. Jermaine McCray to the right of Dalton Howe. Almost pulled Pine Bush. And it looks like they might have. Flag has been thrown. As soon as Markel Thompson, number 8, went into motion, about 3 or 4 of the defensive linemen for the Bushmen came across. It's going to be a 5-yard offsides call. First and 5 for Middletown, now at the 33-yard line. The give is to number 15 for the Mini Bears, right up the middle. That's Jermaine McCray. Picked up 3 on the play, second down and 2 from the Pine Bush 30. Edward Ryan Garmendez with the tackle for the Bushmen. Second and 2. On the far side is Rodney Bell, lined up as a receiver. Back to pass is Howell. Looking downfield, he is hit on the play. They're going to call it incomplete as his arm was in motion. Pressure on the play by number 56, Justin Lewis. As well as Eric Marte in on the almost sack, but enough to put pressure and cause an incomplete pass by Howell. Third down and 2 from the 30-yard line. Howell under center. Give right up the middle. It's going to be enough for Middletown first down. Angel Ortiz, number 2 for the Mini Bears with the carry. Brings the ball down to the 26 to pick up a 4. First and 10 Middletown, their second first down of this opening drive of the 2020-2021 Section 9 football season. Howell looks to come out of the shotgun for this opening down. The give is to Bell. He's trying the far side to get around the corner. He dodges a couple of Pine Bush defensive players, goes down the far sideline all the way down inside the 10. It's going to be a 16-yard pickup for Bell. Dion Cawthon with the tackle for Pine Bush, but not before Middletown gets its third first down of this opening drive. First and goal just inside the 10 for Middletown. And if Coach Wolfslayer is listening out there, he'd be very happy with these run calls. Howell under center. The give this time to McCray. Tries to cut it back inside, but nothing but Bushman there waiting for him. No gain on the play. Might have even lost about a half yard. It's going to bring up second and goal for Middletown from the Pine Bush 10-yard line. .8:27 remaining in the first quarter. No score yet. This is the Mini Bears opening drive. Howell from the shotgun. Straight back to pass, looking to the left side, and he had Rodney Bell, overshot him. He was defended well on the play by Dylan DeGroot. So it's going to bring up 3rd and 10. 3rd and goal for Middletown from the 10-yard line of Pine Bush. Some late personnel changes for Middletown. About 20 seconds left on the play clock. Play clock down to 8 seconds. They'll have to get this play off quick to avoid a penalty. Howell under center. He's going to go back to Bass. Scrambles to his right. He's got a receiver open for the Middletown touchdown. Number 10 for the Mini Bears is Jaden Farrell. And Middletown with 8:06 remaining in the first quarter on its opening drive takes the ball 46 yards. Looks like Angel Ortiz, number 2, in to attempt the extra point for Middletown. And it hits the post, is no good. A little bit of a surprise. We had the kicker listed for Middletown as being Jason Sandoval, who did a nice job in 2019 of kicking for Middletown. We don't know the reason why he's not in the ballgame kicking here, but that may explain the initial squib kick to open the game on the kickoff. But Middletown once again goes 46 yards on their opening drive of this 2021 football season. And they're up 6-0 over Pine Bush. That opening drive set up by a fumble that was recovered on 3rd down after a bad exchange on an option play between the Pine Bush quarterback and Christian Walker, their running back. We'll see what Middletown does on this kickoff. The Pine Bush deep men have moved up a little bit after that initial kick, and once again it's a low liner coming down at about the 30-yard line. Picked up by Milland. He brings it across the 35 to the 37-yard line, and that's where Pine Bush will take over 1st and 10. Down 6-0 with 8:01 remaining in the first quarter. Cameron Pagan and Kyle Scott in on the tackles for Middletown. So as you saw in the opening drive, the quarterback for Pine Bush is number 3, Danny DeGroot. The 2 running backs that were active on that opening drive, number 7, Gunnar Milland, and number 1, Christian Walker. Pine Bush did not attempt to pass on its opening 3-play drive. DeGroot under center. And there's a flag on the play. Might have been motion or the play clock, one or the other. A delay of game was the play clock. That'll cost Pine Bush 5 yards. That pushes the ball back to the 32-yard line, 1st and 15 for Pine Bush. On the near side, they have number 4, Dylan DeGroot, set up as a wide receiver for his brother. This time the ball's right up the middle. DeGroot keeps it for Pine Bush. Picked up about 3 yards, 2nd down and 12. They'll actually give him 3 to the 36, so 2nd down and 11. So after the initial run play where Milan picked up 5 yards to start their opening drive, the Middy Bears have done a nice job stopping the run. Giving up the middle, Milan on the handoff. Whole host of Middy Bears bringing them down. You can hear the cheering from that sideline, that blue sideline of Middletown. They're going to mark the football at the 39-yard line, pickup of 3. It's going to bring up 3rd and 9 for Pine Bush. And will we see Danny DeGroot's first pass of the game? All 11 players for Middletown are positioned within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, so they don't think there's going to be too much passing here this evening. And there's another flag, another delay of game against Pine Bush. I had a conversation with assistant coach Ornsby for the Middies Bears, and he thought they've practiced 11 times. They've had 11 days of practice, no two-a-days. You can probably imagine that Pine Bush had a similar setup, and they were very much concerned with being able to get plays in on time. And as you've seen, we've already had 2 delay of games against Pine Bush here on this second drive. DeGroot's going to go back to pass. It's a short one to Walker, but all over it for Middletown is Markel Thompson, number 8. He read it all the way. There is a flag on the play. It's holding against Pine Bush. That'll be declined by Middletown. It'll bring up a 4th down. That's a loss of about 7 yards on the play. And Pine Bush will be back to punt. Number 22 on the far side for Middletown is Rodney Bell, and number 10, Jaden Farrell on the near side, waiting to receive the punt. They're stationed at their own 35. It's a good kick. Coming down to Bell at the 30-yard line, coming down the near side, trying to get around the quarter. He's at the 40, the 45, down to the 50. There is a flag on the play. A nice run back by Bell, but there is a flag down near the 42-yard line of Middletown. Stephen Gear on the stop for Pine Bush. We'll wait to see what that flag is. We have a block in the back against Middletown. That'll take them back 10 yards from the 42, back to the 32-yard line. That'll negate a 27-yard return by Rodney Bell, all for naught. One of the positive things about having a small attendance because of what's been going on with the pandemic is you can, even from the press box, clearly hear the coach's instructions, and they were not happy with that particular penalty. 1st and 10 for the Middies Bears from their own 32-yard line. They're up 6-0 with 5:45 remaining in the first quarter. That's Jermaine McCray on the carry off of the Dalton Howell handoff. Picks up about 2 yards on the play. It's going to bring up a 2nd and 8 as the ball will be placed at the Middletown 34-yard line. Connor Codges with the stop for Pine Bush. The Middies Bears have taken the lead here early on in the first quarter on a 10-yard touchdown pass from Dalton Howell to Jaden Farrell. It's a handoff to McCray once again. He's trying to get to the outside, but nothing doing. Pine Bush reading it well. Several folks on the Pine Bush side on the stop, including number 36, Anthony Bressler. No gain on the play. 2nd down and 8. It's going to bring up 3rd and 8 for Middletown. Third and 8 for Middletown from their own 34-yard line. From the shotgun is Dalton Howell. He's going straight back to pass, trying to avoid the rush. He's scrambling over to the right side. He's got nowhere to throw, turns it upfield. does get a couple of yards, but well short of a first down at the 36-yard line. And Middletown will be forced to punt on its second drive of the ball game. There is a player down for Pine Bush on the far side of the field. So we have a little bit of a delay. Once again, our opening game here at Fowler Field on the campus of Middletown High School. The Middy Bears have home games the next several weeks on Friday night. From a spectator perspective, we do need to let Middyland know that the only spectators are registered on a gate list, and they're put on there as each player is allowed 2 individuals to attend this evening's game. We hope that as the season goes on and things improve in our country, that perhaps we can see some more seats, more fans in the seats here in Middletown. The opening drive from Pine Bush was a 3-and-out, which ended in a turnover on a bad pitch off of an option by their quarterback, Danny DeGroot, to the intended running back, Christian Walker. Middletown recovered on the Pine Bush 46-yard line, drove all the way down to the 10-yard line, and on 3rd and goal, Dalton Howell threw it to Jaden Farrell for a 10-yard touchdown for Middletown. That was with 8:06 remaining in the first quarter. The Middy Bears missed the extra point by Angel Ortiz as it plunked off of the goalpost. Pine Bush on their second drive, also a 3-and-out. They punted the football to the Middletown 32, where the Middy Bears took over, and Middletown is getting ready to punt on 4th down. We'll try to get a number here for you on that Pine Bush injury. And that's a tough one because that looks to be Christian Walker, number 1, being helped off the field. Walker is an integral part of this Pine Bush offense. He's their number 2 running back. So we'll see how the Bushmen adjust. Number 7, Gunnar Milland, is back near his own 30-yard line, getting ready to receive the punt from Middletown's Jermaine McCray, who has set himself up near the 22 of Middletown. It's a good snap. Kick comes down near the 40-yard line. Pine Bush lets it bounce, and it's a good Middletown bounce here on this Fowler turf. Down near the Middy Bear logo at the Pine Bush 25-yard line, and that's where the Bushmen will take over 1st and 10. Pine Bush trying to put together at least a first down. They've yet to get one here in the first quarter. We have about 3.5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. Middletown has done a nice job stopping the Pine Bush run game so far. The give is right up the middle. Milland on the carry. Looks like a couple of yard pickup. They're going to mark it at about the 22-yard line. 2nd and 8. For Pine Bush. And with Middletown definitely concentrating on the run, it looks like Pine Bush might need to figure out a passing attack here to kind of loosen up that Middletown defense. A flag is on the play. Number 24 on the carry. He is loose. Just as I said that the Middy Bears were stopping the running attack, here it is for Pine Bush all the way down to the 10-yard line. Number 24, Edward Ryan Garmendez, who probably came in for number 1, Christian Walker, who went out with the injury. There was a flag on the play. We'll see what that flag is. It may very well have been a Middletown offsides at the time of the snap. They've waved off the flag, so that run that was a 64-yard run for Garmendez, who again came into this ball game because of the injury to Christian Walker a play earlier. Handoff up the middle. Didn't go anywhere. The Middletown defensive line making amends for the last play. That was Gunnar Meeland on the carry. He lost a yard, it looks like, so 2nd and 11. Pine Bush can get a first down at the 2-yard line. DeGroot under center. Meland is directly behind him. He's got the handoff right up the middle. Gets it across the 10-yard line. Number 21 for Middletown, Zaquan Steeps with the tackle. It's going to bring up 3rd and 6 from the Middletown 8-yard line. Nope, it's pitched back this time. Number 24 in for the touchdown, and he deserves it after his 64-yard run. Edward Ryan Garmendez puts it in from 8 yards out for Pine Bush, and this game is tied with 1:21 remaining in the first quarter. The Middy Bears had done a nice job stopping that Pine Bush run attack. Christian Walker, number 1, goes out with an injury. In comes Edward Ryan Garmendez, and he's rushed the ball for 73 yards on 2 plays and puts it into the end zone for the 2-point conversion. He's given the ball once again. Middletown, he does get across. Looked like he was stopped, but the extra effort by Garmendez puts it in for a 2-point conversion. And Pine Bush takes the lead here with 1:21 remaining in the first, 8-6. Makes you wonder why Mr. Garmendez wasn't one of the starting running backs after that display on that drive for Pine Bush. Once again, the Middy Bears have done a nice job stopping that vaunted Pine Bush attack, which was a strong rushing attack from 2019, and that continues to be the case here in 2021. But Middletown had done a nice job up until that 64-yard run by Garmendez. Rodney Bell, number 22, on the near side, in the middle of the return team. Number 3, Zion Roberts on the near side. The kicker for Pine Bush is number 52, Ryan Morris. First time we'll get to see Mr. Morris and his kicking abilities here at Fowler. We have a slight breeze going in the direction or at Pine Bush's back. Morris's kick comes down short at the 33-yard line. It's taken by number 21 for the Middy Bears. That's Zaquan Steeps. He returns it back to the 42. A 10-yard return for Steeps. That'll give Middletown a good field position at their own 42-yard line as they trail for the first time this year, 8-6, after that Pine Bush touchdown with 1:13 remaining in the first quarter. Howell from the shotgun. He's got McCray to his left. Rodney Bell on the fake. McCray with the football, trying to get to the far side, but that's snuffed out by number 34 of Pine Bush, Anthony Bressler. That brings the ball all the way back to the Middletown 35-yard line. That's a loss of 7 on the play. Second down and 17 for Middletown. Clock running down, about 40 seconds remaining here in the first quarter. This time Howell's under center. Inside handoff. That's number 8 for Middletown, and a nice gain by Markel Thompson right up the middle off of the fake to McCray. $12-yard gain for Thompson for Middletown, bringing it to a much better 3rd and 5 position for the Middy Bears, but that's going to do it here in the first quarter. So we've got 1 quarter in the books here at Fowler. As the temperatures start to drop, Pine Bush leading Middletown 8-6. The Middy Bears opened up the scoring here at Fowler on a 10-yard pass from Dalton Howell to Jaden Farrell. That made the score 6-0 with 8:06 remaining in the first quarter. The extra point was missed by Middletown, and it was 6-0 Middy Bears. Pine Bush, after a couple of drives that really didn't materialize with anything, finally got an opportunity when, believe it or not, one of their starting running backs went down to an injury. That was Christian Walker, number 1. His replacement, number 24, Edward Ryan Garmendez, on the very next play took it 64 yards to just outside the Middy Bear 10-yard line. And a couple of plays later, he took it in to the end zone to tie up the ball game at 6, and then took in a 2-point conversion. And that's where we stand after 1. Pine Bush leading Middletown 8-6. Got about 20 seconds before we return here for some second quarter action. Temperature going down into the 40s, upper 40s here at Fowler. We'll try to get Athletic Director David Coates up here for halftime to give us a little State of the Union address, so to speak, when it comes to Middy Bear sports. So Middletown has a 3rd and 5 from its own 47-yard line as it tries to make up the 2-point deficit that they're facing against Pine Bush. Howell goes back to pass from the shotgun. He's got a receiver. The football is tapped up. It was a little bit of a high throw. Number 9 for the Middy Bears, Jagger Blauvelt, is upset with himself as he thinks he should have come down with that football. We're trying to see what Middletown is going to do with the football. And it does look like the Middy Bears will come in to punt the football away, try to gain back that field position. Gunnar Milan back to receive the punt. He's stationed at his own 22-yard line. There's about 3 seconds left. And the Middy Bears are not going to get the ball off. Delay a game. They had some late personnel come into the play. There was a little indecision at the beginning as to whether or not they were going to punt the football, and that cost them a couple of seconds here on the play clock. So McCray back there to punt the football. That penalty brings Milan back to his own 30-yard line. Here's the kick. It's a nice kick. With the wind behind him, Milan does a fair catch and comes down with the football inside the 20, where Pine Bush will take over 1st and 10 at their own 19-yard line. So Middletown has regained some field position here on that exchange with 11:45 remaining in the first half. Middletown trailing Pine Bush 8-6. I want to thank our public address announcer, Mr. Jeff Shuko, for giving us a score update with Minnesink leading Goshen 13-0 in the second quarter. So 1st and 10 for Pine Bush. They'll mark the football at the 20-yard line. Under center is DeGroot. He hands the football off, and this is pretty much what it's going to be for Pine Bush. A couple of yards picked up on that carry. 2nd and 8. Nothing fancy here in the Pine Bush offensive scheme. They know they're going to run it. They know the opponent knows they're going to run it. It's just whether or not they can be stopped. Second and 8. DeGroot under center. This time he keeps it. Tries to turn it upfield. And gets down to the 26-yard line. It's going to bring up 3rd and 4. Jermaine McCray on the stop for the Middy Bears. Couple of personnel moves here by the Bushmen. Third and 4 for Pine Bush from their own 26-yard line. DeGroot is under center. Milan's directly behind him as the running back. This time it's given to, and Middletown snuffed it right out. A nice job by that front line getting penetration. Number 24 on the carry is Garmendez. The Middy Bears saying not this time to Mr. Ryan Garmendez. 4th down for Pine Bush. Back to punt the football for Pine Bush. Looks to be number 52, Ryan Morris. Kick's coming down near midfield. And it hits a Middletown player, and Pine Bush has recovered. Number 28 for Middletown, Jared Howell, had his back to the football trying to shag down the oncoming Pine Bush would-be tackler, and that would-be tackler ends up gaining control after the ball goes off the shoulder of Howell, and a big change in momentum here. Middletown was set to take over at midfield. Instead, it's the Bushmen taking over at midfield with 9:39 remaining in the first half and holding an 8-6 lead. DeGroot hands it off to Milan up the middle to gain a 2 yards on the play. Ahmad Kelman on the stop, the initial stop for the Middy Bears. And the Middletown defense will have to do it once again after that turnover on special teams. 2nd and 8, DeGroot for Pine Bush under center. Milland in the backfield, back to pass. And he's up, and he's got a receiver, but not in bounds. They're going to call it incomplete on the far sideline. Number 22 for Pine Bush, Alex Bucalo, was the intended receiver. It looked like he came down with the football, but it was out of bounds, so it's going to be 3rd down and 8. 3rd and 8 for Pine Bush on the Middletown side of the field. Looks like an option, but the Middletown Middies snuff it out. Number 64, Ahmad Kelman, with the big stop. And once again, Pine Bush will be forced to punt the football. The ball marked all the way back to midfield. 4th down and 11, so Ryan Morris will try it again, punting near his 40-yard line. Ball was nearly blocked. It's going out of bounds on the Middletown side of the field inside the 30. They'll mark it at the 27. And Middletown will take over on its own 27-yard line, trailing 8-6 against Pine Bush. 8:08 remaining in the first half. Pine Bush has done a nice job defensively against that Middletown running attack after the initial drive that had Rodney Bell and Jermaine McCray with a couple of big carries that eventually led to the 10-yard touchdown pass from Howell to Farrell. Since then, it's been a couple of 3-and-outs for Middletown. Howell under center. Dalton Howell under center. Up the middle, Jermaine McCray. He found some running room, and it's some good yardage on that first down carry. 7 yards all the way down to the 34-yard line. It'll bring up 2nd and 3. Bressler on the stop for Pine Bush. We're trying to do a quick equipment change for the official. 2nd and 3. Handoff on the near side. That's Markel Thompson for Middletown. Brought down near the 39-yard line. The ball came loose, but the officials have said that the ball was down. And Thompson all the way down to the 39-yard line. 1st and 10 Middletown. 7:11 remaining in the first half. Thompson, after that carry, comes out of the football game. And now he's coming back. Now it looks like there's a stoppage. Timeout for Middletown. There was some confusion whether or not Thompson was supposed to be in on that play. He had come off the field, and at the last second, when the team started heading over to the line of scrimmage, coaches realized, what are you doing here? They had to call the timeout with 8 seconds remaining on the play clock. Thompson was not going to be able to get back to the line of scrimmage. So the Middletown Middy Bears have a 1st and 10 from their own 39-yard line. They trail in the ball game 8-6. 6:53 remaining in the first half. It's been a battle of run games, although the Middletown touchdown was a pass from Howell to Farrell just inside the 10-yard line. And Pine Bush responded after Middletown missed their extra point attempt with Garmendez having a big 64-yard run just short of the Middletown 10-yard line, and then he completed that a couple of plays later, taking it into the end zone and followed it up with a 2-point conversion rush, giving us our score 8-6 Pine Bush. We're back from the timeout now. Middletown with the football, 1st and 10 from their own 39. Dalton Howell, number 6, under center for the Middy Bears. Give is up the middle. Some good yardage on 1st down once again for Middletown. Josh Soder on the carry for Middletown. Picked up 6 yards on the play to the 45-yard line. 2nd and 4 for Middletown. Once again, Howell under center. Ortiz in motion, and he's given the football, cuts back in the opposite direction, still on his feet, on the near side. What a run by Angel Ortiz inside Pine Bush territory to the 41-yard line. He went in motion to the left. Once he was given the football, turned right around in the opposite direction.
We have a personal
Got
foul.
initially
Personal
stopped
foul.
after
Face
5
mask.
yards and just
On the
kept on
defense,
going.
15
Nobody
yards from
stopped
the end
him.
of the run. First down.
In addition to that, during that initial contact, there was a face mask called. That's going to be another 15 yards on top of the run by Middletown, and that's going to take it deep into Pine Bush territory, inside the 30 to the 29-yard line. 6:03 remaining in the first half. Middletown 1st and 10 from the Pine Bush 29-yard line. Howell back to pass. He's got Bell on the far side. Sheds one tackle at the 20. He's at the 15. Cuts it inside at the 10. Touchdown, Rodney Bell. Dalton Howell's pass, a 29-yard touchdown to number 22 of the Mini Bears, Mr. Rodney Bell, his first TD of the year. And Middletown's regained the lead at 12-8, 5:50 remaining in the first half. I tell you, folks, Bell is very difficult to bring down one-on-one, always has been. And you could probably hear the inflection in my voice as soon as I saw that one-on-one matchup. All he needed to do was shed that would-be tackler, and he did, to turn it upfield. And with the extra effort near the 5-yard line, he takes it in for the 29-yard touchdown, giving Middletown a 12-8 lead. The Mini Bears now will try for a 2-point conversion. Howell back to pass. In the end zone. He's got the conversion for Middletown. Number 10, Jaden Farrell, his second catch of the day. The first one was for a 10-yard touchdown. This one for a 2-point conversion. Mr. Farrell has made his presence known here in what I believe to be his first varsity football game. The Mini Bears have now taken a 14-8 lead over Pine Bush. 5:50 remaining on the strength of some good running by Angel Ortiz, culminating in the 29-yard touchdown reception by Rodney Bell, the nice throw by Dalton Howell. And the Mini Bears are back on the board. Gunnar Meland back to take the kickoff for Pine Bush, along with Garmendez. He's on the near side. Meland's right in the middle, expecting a short kick. Jermaine McCray in for the kickoff. These have been short, both on the opening kickoff as well as after the first Middletown score. And there's a whistle and penalty flags thrown, offsides on Middletown on the kickoff. That'll set him back another 5 yards. And when you have a short kick history, every 5 yards counts. Milan now has stationed himself near the 40-yard line. He's got 2 deep returners behind him, but he seems to be the target as far as who Pine Bush wants to run the ball back. McCray stepping into the kick. It's a low squibbler near midfield. Pine Bush recovers near the far sideline, so good field position for Pine Bush. And obviously there are some items Middletown has to work on in regards to the kicking game, but this is the first game of the year, as we mentioned earlier. Assistant Coach Ornsby let me know they've only had about 11 practices, no two-a-days due to the pandemic. So everyone just trying to feel themselves out here in the opening game of the season. Middletown leading 14-8, 5:42 remaining in the first half. DeGroot hands it off up the middle. No gain. Middletown front line does a nice job. In talking with our public address announcer, Mr. Shuko, in between breaks, we talked about the fact that Middletown has all 11 of its defensive players within 10 yards. No one in the secondary. And unfortunately, that means that if your running back can get through those first two levels, he's got no one left to beat. And that's what happened with Garmendez in his 64-yard run earlier. The pitch back to Garmendez on the near side. Looked like a little holding, but I don't see any flag on the field. The Middletown coach is on the sideline. Coach Drenfell beside himself. He felt he was being either pushed in the back or held. But a good gain of about 8 yards for Garmendez gives Pine Bush a 3rd and 2 at the Middletown 42-yard line. Third and 2 under center. DeGroot, he fumbles the exchange, still has the football, and that's going to prevent him from getting a first down. So the exchange between the center and Danny DeGroot was not good, and that's going to bring up a 4th down. The feeling here is that Pine Bush is likely to go for it here on 4th and 3. And DeGroot gets his play call from head coach Jim Wright, and he's back to the huddle. 3rd and 3 for Pine Bush. I believe it's 4th down. The down marker on the far side is incorrect. Middletown on the handoff has stopped Pine Bush. And even though it was 4th down before, there is a mistake there. I believe that's a Middletown football right now. Yep, now they've changed it to 1st down. So the down marker on the far side was incorrect at 3rd down. So Middletown's defense holds, and they take over with good field position on their own 43-yard line. The Mini Bears will have 4 minutes remaining in the first half to try to put up some more as they try to extend their 14-8 lead. Number 50 for Middletown coming in late for the play. That's Jason Cintron. Middletown has about 13 seconds left on the play clock as they run up to the line of scrimmage. This time from the shotgun is Howell. He's got 3 seconds to get it off and does. It's a pass to the far side. Again, that's Bell, I believe. But this time he had multiple Pine Bush players coming at him. He sidestepped a couple of them. So it's a loss of a yard. 2nd and 11 for Middletown, their own 42-yard line. The original line of scrimmage being the 43. Now coming into the game for Middletown is number 8, Markel Thompson. He replaces Zion Roberts, who comes off the field, as well as Farrell, number 10. 2nd down and 11, 3:20 remaining in the first half. This time up the middle, Ortiz with the handoff from Howell. Has another good gainer. He's been doing a nice job so far on a couple of handoffs that he's received. Gets the ball inside the 45-yard line to the 48. Picks up 6 yards on the play, making it 3rd and 5 from the Middletown 48-yard line. This is a big play for both teams. Middletown trying to keep the momentum going, and Pine Bush trying to get the ball back to try to put up a score late in the first half. From the shotgun is Howell. Goes straight back to pass. Over the middle, almost intercepted. Number 36 for Pine Bush, Anthony Bressler, almost came up with the interception. 4th down and 5. We'll see what Middletown looks to do here. And it's the punt team. Jermaine McCray, number 15, the punter, back at the 35-yard line. And Gunnar Milland is going back to set himself inside the 25-yard line near the 20 for Pine Bush. This looks to be a timeout for Middletown. They had trouble getting some personnel in. You can hear Coach Strenfeld not being too happy with some of his players not realizing that they were supposed to be in on the play. So in recapping so far, 2:22 remaining in the first half. Middletown leads at 14-8. 2 touchdown passes by Dalton Howell, the first one of 10 yards to Jaden Farrell, number 10 for the Middies Bears on their opening drive. And a couple of drives ago, it was Howell for 29 yards to Rodney Bell. Bell doing a nice job of evading a couple of would-be tacklers. And his second effort took him into the end zone. Farrell converted the 2-point conversion on a reception. The Pine Bush touchdown in between those two Middletown scores came after Garmendez had a 64-yard touchdown run and then promptly put it into the end zone, also converting on a 2-yard run for the for the 2-point conversion. And that's where we're at, 14-8 Middletown with 2:22 remaining in the first half. So Jermaine McCray back in to punt the football near his 35-yard line. Milan back to receive the punt for Pine Bush, stationed near his 20. It's a good kick by McCray. Coming down at the 20, Milan with the football had called a fair catch. So they're going to call it as a fair catch, 1st and 10. They'll mark it at the 21-yard line, 1st and 10 for Pine Bush. 2:13 remaining in the first half. It's been a good football game so far here, considering that both teams haven't had a lot of practice time and about a year and a half off because of the pandemic. We want to give a lot of credit to the Middletown Athletic Department for, what's really been some trying times and trying to get sports situated during this tough time for our country. But they've done a nice job in localizing any folks who end up being COVID positive, but so far so good here this evening. Handoff on the far side for Pine Bush. Looks to be number 21, I believe, Thomas Norton. We'll see once he gets up. And my apologies, it was Garmendez with the carry. Clock's running, 1:50 remaining in the first half. Pick up a 5 for Garmendez, 2nd and 5 for Pine Bush from their 27-yard line. 2 receivers on the near side, but this is a running team, and it gets pitched back to the running back. A nice job there by Middletown. We'll see who that is once he gets up. Number 50 for the Middies Bears on the tackle. That was Jason Cintron pursuing the running back coming off of the pitch. No gain on the play. It's going to be 3rd and 4 for Pine Bush. Clock still running at 1:06. DeGroot's under center. Handoff to Meland up the middle. Nice job that time by number 74 for the Mini Bears. That's Stephen Moncherry. But Pine Bush gains just enough yardage for the first down with the clock running. Clock is stopped for the first down momentarily as the official comes over to make an announcement.
Please put 45 seconds on the game clock.
They'll add another 9 seconds
Thank
to
you.
45 seconds on the play clock. And we're all set with 45 seconds remaining in the first half. Middletown leading at 14-8. Pine Bush has a 1st and 10 on their own 32-yard line. Middletown will have possession to start the second half. The pitch this time on the far side is to number 24 this time. Garmendez with the carry. Zequan Steeps with the tackle for Middletown and a timeout by Pine Bush. So the Bushmen call timeout with 25 seconds left. They're going to have a 2nd and 5 from their own 37-yard line when play resumes. The Middletown cheerleaders trying to keep the crowd here entertained. We got a couple of hundred folks here in a stadium that seats about 4,000 folks. Once again, each player was allowed 2 tickets for tonight's game. So there are no walk-in spectators into the facility due to COVID restrictions. We hope that as the season goes on, we're not sure if we'll get it through before the end of the football season. But things seem to be looking a lot more promising in those areas. So we'll see if we can maybe expand the spectator experience here at Fowler. But a nice crowd sitting. It's a little bit chilly as the sun has gone down and a breeze has taken place. Temperature about 45 degrees here at Fowler. This is a fairly new turf. It was put in prior to the 2019 football season, and a brand new 10-lane, 8-lane straightaway track, which will be the host of the New York State Spring Track and Field Championships in 2022. That was supposed to have taken place this year, but everything was postponed due to the pandemic. So Middletown will host the state championships in track and field in 2022 and 2024. It'll be held in Syracuse in the in-between year. Spring Track and Field is the largest championship in New York State with a couple of thousand athletes, and it has been held here at Middletown before successfully. 2nd and 5 for the Bushmen from their own 37-yard line, trailing 14-8 with 25 seconds remaining in the first half. DeGroot up the middle to Meland. He gets to the initial defensive line, and he's finally brought down by Rodney Bell, number 22 for Middletown, and Angel Ortiz, number 2. Timeout by Pine Bush to pick up a 4 on the play, leaving the Bushmen 1 yard short of a first down. With the ball being placed at the 41-yard line and 17 seconds remaining. 1 timeout left for each team. The Mini Bears' goal here is to make sure no one gets behind them with only 17 seconds remaining. We're waiting to come back from our timeout here. See, once again, 17 seconds remaining in the first half. Middletown leading Pine Bush 14-8 here at Fowler Field. The start of the Section 9 football season for both teams. There's a carry right up the middle. It's going to be enough for a first down. That'll stop the clock while the chains are moved. 12 seconds remaining in the first half. Pine Bush calls a timeout, and you would think there's a possibility of a Hail Mary from midfield. We want to thank the folks here in the press box helping us out this evening. Mr. Paul Fox and Mr. Brian Seaback are what I would call our executive producers, working the cameras this evening, along with Kevin Moore and Alana Zeladon, some Middletown High School students helping us out here this evening. So thank you to all of what we call the Gertech crew. Get it ready. Alana and Kevin being former students, I'm reminded. But we want to thank them for helping us out here at Fowler this evening, as we try to bring you a live stream telecast with somewhat of a skeleton crew. I'm sure all of you out there in Middie TV land are missing our legendary head football coach, Mr. Dick Wolfslayer. Hopefully he'll be back with us sometime during this football season when we can expand the capacity here at the press box. And Mr. Ed Tucker, who was joining us in 2019, is now helping out on the field as an assistant coach for Middletown. And a shout out to the Middletown School District Administration, our Board of Education, as well as our Superintendent, Mr. Richard Del Moro. High School Principal Tracy Sorrentino, and all of our deans here at Middletown High School for helping to put somewhat of a football season back on track. Our community liaison, Mr. Kevin Witt. Our facilities manager, Mr. Kevin Gleason, along with our athletic director, David Coates. And countless others, both on security as well as in other departments, helping us out here this evening. 12 seconds remaining. 1st and 10 from the Pine Bush 48 for the Bushmen. Back to pass, likely to be a Hail Mary. Couldn't find anybody. Now he's scrambling, and he's finally brought down by number 64 of the Middies Bears, and that's Ahmad Kelman, who's had a good game so far for Middletown. That will likely be the last play with 5 seconds remaining. 2nd and 10. It'll be no gain on the play. And my apologies, apparently he did get rid of the ball before getting tackled by Kelman, which is why the clock stopped. It was an incomplete pass. Under center, this time there's a flag, and it's going to be another delay of game. Their third one of the game for Pine Bush. That typically happens when you set yourself up for a Hail Mary. Everybody runs to the end zone, and it's tough for them to get back in time for the line of scrimmage. So the ball is now placed at the Pine Bush 43-yard line. 2nd down and about 15, but the yardage for the first down isn't the story on this play. With 5 seconds remaining, it's going to be the Hail Mary heave that you'll see from DeGroot, or at least we think that's what will happen. And this time they're going to do the pitch to Garmendez and hope he has another long run in it. And he doesn't, as he goes out of bounds on the far sideline. Does pick up about 10 yards on the play. But that's going to be the end of the first half of football here for the start of the 2021 football season here at Fowler Field. The Middies Bears take a 14-8 lead into halftime. We will try to get Athletic Director David Coates up here to talk a little bit about sports here at Middletown. But for right now, the Middy Bears have the 14-8 lead on 2 scores. They took their opening drive 46 yards, culminating in a 10-yard touchdown pass after a couple of good runs by McCray and Rodney Bell. It was Dalton Howell to Jaden Farrell for 10 yards and the Middletown score. A couple of 3-and-outs by both teams. Before Pine Bush finally got the football back, one of their starting running backs, number 1, Christian Walker, went down with a leg injury, and on the very next play, his replacement, number 24, Edward Ryan Garmendez, ended up going 64 yards, bringing the ball down near the Middletown 10-yard line. Garmendez then put it into the end zone on another run play, followed it up with a 2-point conversion, and it was Garmendez 8, Middletown 6 at that point. The Middy Bears, after another couple of 3-and-outs by both teams, ended up scoring on a 29-yard touchdown pass to Rodney Bell from Dalton Howell. It was a little pitch throw to the left side. Rodney Bell evaded one would-be tackler and then made a second effort down near the 5-yard line to put it into the end zone. And the 2-point conversion by Middletown was successful. Howell to Farrell on the 2-point conversion. And that's where we are at halftime. Middletown 14 and Pine Bush 8. We want to bring you here our public address announcer, Mr. Jeff Shuko. Jeff, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Estrada.
And he has some stats for us from the first half.
So Dalton Howell has 2 touchdown passes in the first half. He connected with Jaden Farrell from 10 yards out, and Rodney Bell, as you just so eloquently put, from 29 yards out. Dalton Howell also has a 2-point conversion pass to Jaden Farrell. Angel Ortiz had a nice run down the right side of the field. That was actually aided by a Pine Bush face mask penalty. Ortiz picked up 15 yards, and then Ortiz also got the Middies 15 yards closer with a Pine Bush grasping the face mask penalty. Farrell has 1 catch for 10 yards, which was his touchdown, and Rodney Bell has 2 catches for 28 yards and a touchdown. Bell also has 29 yards on the ground. Jermaine McCray, Dalton Howell, and Markel Thompson are also pitching in on the ground effort. On the defensive side of the ball for the Middies, Ahmad Kelman has had a fantastic game. He's been in the backfield all the time for the Middies. He has 3 tackles, and he had a key pressure of number 3, Danny DeGroot. Also, Middy standouts on defense are number 10, Jaden Farrell, with a fumble recovery. Number 74, Stephen Moncherie, and number 75, Isaiah Jackson, have done a nice job controlling the line of scrimmage for the Middy defense. Middletown has done a fantastic job of controlling that line of scrimmage from Pine Bush. Pine Bush, will often try to run the ball as much as possible. I believe that Danny DeGroot only attempted 2 passes in that half. One was they both were incomplete. One was nearly a circus catch by, I believe that was either number 22 Alex Bacolo or number 7 Gunnar Meeland, and the other was while he was in the grasp of number 64 Ahmad Kelman. So Pine Bush is very run-oriented here at Fowler Field, and they always have been for a long, long time, for as far as I can remember.
Pine Bush, coming off of the championship in 2019, they defeated, surprisingly, Newburgh in 2019, has always been a run-oriented team. So there's no surprise, like we mentioned earlier during the broadcast, is Pine Bush is going to run the ball. They know their opponents know they're going to run the ball, and yet they still do it very effectively. And Middletown had, as we talked earlier, all 11 players within 10 yards of the box of the scrimmage.
Absolutely.
And typically when that happens, one handoff, if you get through the first two levels, there's nobody left in the secondary to tackle you. And that's what happened with Garmendez on his 64-yard touchdown run. So really the Midi Bears have done an outstanding job against the Pine Bush run attack, with the exception of the one play.
And absolutely, that's what Pine Bush does. They kind of almost lull you to sleep with the inside run. It's inside run to the left, inside run to the right, and then you get comfortable and you say, okay, we have 11 guys in the box. We're going to stop the run, and then they run the option to the left or the option to the right. And, I mean, most football coaches would like their running back to face off against the opposing cornerback because most of the time that's a win for the offense, and that's exactly what happened when Pine Bush's Edward Ryan Garmendez broke his long 64-yard run down into the Middletown about the Middletown 10-yard line. I mean, Pine Bush ran the ball, and then they pitched the ball to Garmendez on the outside, and he got one-on-one against the Middletown defensive backs. And
that was
you
it.
really like
And
his chances.
And really, we didn't have any defensive backs. We essentially had a lot of linebackers and a lot of linemen, and that's typically how you would line up defensively against a team that does nothing but run the football consistently. So,
absolutely. I mean,
like we said, Pine Bush knows.
to do.
Yep, we know what Pine Bush is going to do. Middletown's defense knows what it's going to do. It's just whether or not we can stop them. Sometimes those running backs get lost with all those bodies in there, and before you know it, all of a sudden the guy with the football's behind you and not in front of you.
That's that's an excellent point because Pine Bush, their offense is so packed in and so compact that they try to lose their smaller backs behind some of their bigger offensive linemen. They figure, if they can hit the hole, they'll get lost. The linebacker won't be able to scrape over and, follow him into that hole. And, they do a great job of that, as evidenced by their 2019 victory against the Goldbacks of Newburgh, who, are, along with Middletown and Pine Bush and Kingston, they're all perennial contenders in
And Monroe Woodbury.
And Monroe Woodbury. I'm sorry to those of you who are Monroe Woodbury fans out there. I forgot you guys. They are all perennial title contenders in the section every year. And Pine Bush did an excellent job of executing during that game.
Nope. And this year, taking a look at the Pine Bush offense, which we've pretty much essentially stated it's very one-dimensional. On the other hand, you take a look at that Middletown offense that we've seen so far through one half of football and only 11 practices so far this year. And to tell you the truth, for 11 practices, I'm impressed. They have offensive capabilities both in the running game with Rodney Bell or Jermaine McCray. Even Angel Ortiz surprised us there towards the second half. And then Dalton Howell, who's been here for several years now. We know he's a solid quarterback. He seems to now have developed a nice connection with Jared Farrell, whose first varsity football game, I believe, is this one.
No, he
or
played.
Did he play in 19
late?
Late.
2019, because Dalton Howell.
That's correct. When we had the ineligible player
Dalton
situation.
Howell, along with a couple other members of the team, were unable to play for the first half due to a team rules violation, I believe.
And Farrell came in.
Farrell came in and actually played in the game against Newburgh Free Academy, and Farrell held his own, which was fantastic. I mean, he was a sophomore at that time. Yes, he played on the JV level, but the JV level and the varsity level are two completely different things, and it was very nice to see Jaden Farrell come back out here in his second varsity game and really be a contributor to the Middletown offense. As you said, the Midi offense has been,
I think it's been very dynamic, to tell you the truth.
It's been, two-dimensional. It's not the one-dimensional we're going to run the ball offense. You have Dalton Howell, you have Rodney Bell, and those guys have played probably since Pop Warner and modified football, and they've played together. They know each other, and that's part of the reason why their offense can be so dynamic, because you as a quarterback know what your receiver is going to do when the play breaks down. When the play breaks down, Rodney Bell might say, okay, I'm going to cut towards the post, or I'm going to go towards the sideline. And the more you work with those people, the more you have that rapport with them, so to say.
Yeah, and the other thing that's impressing me so far in the first half, especially for the Midi Bears, is historically it's been difficult for Middletown from a penalty perspective. We typically get a lot of penalties, and in the first half, I think we got maybe one. I don't even remember.
There was virtually flawless execution on the from the Middletown standpoint. In terms
Meanwhile,
of
if you compare them, Pine Bush has had 3 delay of game penalties. They had a face mask penalty that cost them 15 yards.
yes,
So, I mean, the only downside to that first half for Middletown was the 64-yard run that they gave up to get Pine Bush down near scoring territory for them, which they then converted into a touchdown. And then the unfortunate punt that went off of one of the Middletown players near midfield that would have been a 1st and 10 for Middletown at midfield, instead turned into a 1st and 10 at midfield for Pine Bush.
but again,
So the Midi Bears
defense
could have
does a fantastic job
correct.
of stepping up, and that's a key moment in the game where that can make or break a game, because you're sitting there on the sidelines and you're saying, okay, I'm off. I'm off the field. We're back on offense. That's great. And then all of a sudden, you're back out on the field on defense. I mean, that's a momentum shift right there. And the Middletown defense did a great job of, going with the flow and being able to stop Pine Bush.
So we want to thank our public address announcer, Mr. Jeff Shuko, for filling in for our athletic director, who's quite busy down on the field, Mr. David Coates. We hope to have him on sometime in the future as we discuss Middletown sports. There's about 3.5 minutes remaining at halftime. We'll take a short break here at Estrada on Midi TV, bringing you live stream of Middletown High School football. Midi Bears leading at 14-8 over Pine Bush at halftime. We're back here at halftime here at Fowler Field, getting ready for our second half. We have been joined by our athletic director, Mr. David Coates. Dave, how are things going so far here at Fowler?
So far, so good, Mr. Estrada. First and foremost, thank you for broadcasting on Middies TV. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our Board of Education and Mr. Del Moro for allowing this to happen. I know for myself and on behalf of the kids and the coaches, we're extremely grateful.
Yeah, we did mention Mr. Del Moro and the Board of Education, as well as all of your staff with Kevin Witt, Kevin Gleason, and yourself, all of the Gertex here, as well as our security staff. It's not an easy thing to do. What Middletown has accomplished here this evening is brought back a lot of hope to the community, brought back a lot of hope to these kids, these student athletes who have really persevered over the last 12 months.
We have an amazing team, and it's showing here tonight, from our cheerleaders to our football players to our coaches to all of our support staff, like you said, Mr. Estrada. And, I can't be more proud as their athletic director because, the kids and the coaches are doing everything that they need to do in order to stay out there and remain out there, to play the games. Our soccer team did a great job today, and our girls traveled to Port Jervis. And I think they did very well.
Yeah, boys soccer
well.
won 8-1 or 9-1 today.
And so we're really proud of them because it's been a long road for all of our teams.
Getting ready to start the second half here. Middletown has possession. Will get possession to start the second half, leading 14-8. Morris in to kick the football for Middletown for Pine Bush. Rodney Bell back to receive it. It's a squibber that'll come in at the Middletown 38-yard line. Middletown realized finally that they needed to fall on that football. Otherwise, it would have been a turnover to Pine Bush. Not sure. Pine Bush kind of thinks that the ball was loose. There's been no indication yet by the officials. But it is Middletown football. So the Middy Bears will take over 1st and 10 to start the second half from their own 38-yard line. And we've been impressed so far, Mr. Coates, by the Middletown offense. To me, it's really dynamic. You can run the football with Ronnie Bell, Jermaine McCray, Angel Ortiz had some good runs in there. You can throw the football with Dalton Howell, who's our experienced quarterback. Jared Farrell, again, came through with a touchdown. Or Jaden Farrell from 10 yards out.
Amazing in just 10 days, Mr. Estrada. And, you have to give it up to our offensive line, too, and doing a fantastic job, creating those holes for our kids.
And here's Dalton Howell off the scoop on the miss exchange. He's got some running room down the near side before he's finally pushed out of bounds, but not after a huge gain inside Pine Bush territory, down near the 38-yard line. He fumbled the exchange from the center, then picked up the football and made a lot of yardage after that. Sometimes players on the defensive side kind of stop when there's a fumble. But Middletown, Dalton Howell was all over that. That ends up being a 24-yard run for Dalton Howell from the Middletown 38 to the Pine Bush 38-yard line. 1st and 10. There is a player down on the Pine Bush side of the field. We'll try to get a number out there. I do know we have some Pine Bush fans out there watching on Middies TV land. I do want to thank one of my buddies from Pine Bush, Mr. Paul Lindow, for correcting me that Gunner's last name is pronounced Meland, not Meland. So I apologize to the folks out in Pine Bush for that. What number? The injured player looks to be Dion Cawthon for the Bushmen down near the 32-yard line. And
Ed, I had a great conversation with Coach Strentfeld and Coach Wright from Pine Bush, and this was our greatest concern going into the game was the health and safety of the kids coming off of an extended break, close to a year, where the kids are used to, not used to their normal routine going into off-season workouts and then going to camp and then going through the summer, then two-a-days. So really, we're concerned about. And we had a couple injuries tonight so far.
And what's interesting, one of the Pine Bush injuries was to number 1 Christian Walker, and on the very next play, his replacement Garmendez goes 64 yards.
I know, it's amazing. The kids are doing a fantastic job on both sides of the ball and for both teams.
This time the give is to Ortiz on the near side for Middletown. Has some good running room before he's finally pushed out of bounds by number 32 of Pine Bush. That's Joseph Crossi. Or Cross, to pick up a 5 yards on the play for Ortiz, who's looked really good here.
He's tough.
And he's probably the smallest guy on the field.
He's tough. He's tough as nails.
On one of his first runs, which was a long run, he added a 15-yard face mask on that as well.
And before the touchdown, he picked up that big first down on a third and 2. He picked up 4 tough yards.
Jermaine McCray on the pitch, fumbles the football forward, recovers his own fumble, thankfully. Actually picks up a yard on the play, so it's going to bring up 3rd and 4 from the Pine Bush 32-yard line for Middletown. They'll need to get to the 28 to extend the drive. Ortiz comes off the field this time for Middletown, as does number 21, Zaquan Steeps. Big 3rd down play here to start the second half for Middletown. This time Howell's in the shotgun. The give this time on the near side is to Rodney Bell. He turns the corner, turns it upfield, and has enough for a Middletown first down.
I love the way Rodney got inside and out on that play, and then finishing the play, lowering his shoulder and getting the extra yards. Fantastic job by Rodney.
It's tough having to sit out of football for 18 months, but Middletown does have some key players at the quarterback slot and in Rodney Bell, who had a great 2019.
He sure did. He had a breakout season, really, and it's just
arguably the best running back in 2019, in my opinion.
He had a fantastic year, and he continued his workouts all through our break and through COVID and all the layoff, and he worked extremely hard.
Up the middle, Markel Thompson for Middletown, number 8 on the carry. The fake pitch from Howell to McCray, and then the inside handoff to Thompson. A good pickup of about 7 yards on the play, 2nd and 3.
Another tough run, and a great tackle by Pine Bush.
And the difference right now between Middletown and Pine Bush is multiple running backs in action for Middletown, primarily Gunnar Milland, although Garmendez has had a great game for Pine Bush as well. Howell with the handoff. McCray with the football down to the 10-yard line. That's going to be another Middletown first down.
Great push by our offensive line there, and then Jermaine finishing it off and getting that first down. That's a big first down, and we got, first and goal here, it looks like.
9:36 remaining in the third quarter. Middletown leads at 14-8, but the Midi Bears are driving again. They have a first and goal at the Pine Bush 10.
Exactly what you want to have coming out of the halftime, right? It's just a great, long, methodical drive, and hopefully we can finish the deal here.
Rodney Bell is set up as a wide receiver on the left side. Howell is under center. Thompson started in motion, but it drew once again. It looks like Pine Bush offsides. And that's what the call is. That'll give Middletown another 5 yards, and it'll remain first and goal, this time from the 5. The other thing we've been impressed with, Mr. Shuko and I were talking during halftime, Coach Coates, was the fact that, Middletown historically has had issues with penalties. No penalties in the first half, pretty much.
I'm extremely impressed with both teams in that regard with the penalty situation, and pretty much a low penalized game.
Up the middle, touchdown, Middletown! Some rough yardage right up the middle. Josh Soder, number 24, with the 5-yard carry and the Middletown touchdown.
Good job, Middletown. That's a heck of a push right there by the offensive line. I think you got to give that touchdown to them. I know he had a heck of a run there, but I've been saying it all along here. Our offensive line is playing really, really well.
Both lines. I think even defensively against the Pine Bush run, with the exception of the one long run by Garmendez, they've done an outstanding job. Ortiz in for the extra point. He's a sidewinder. It's no good. He had a lot of distance on that extra point. But the extra point's no good, and Middletown leads at 20-8 with 8:45 remaining in the third quarter.
As soon as we got on a turf, too, and, obviously we're missing Jason Sandoval as our main kicker, but he was doing a fantastic job all week, in practice, and he's going out there and getting the extra kicks in, and he has a good foot. He just got to relax and settle into this, and I think he'll be fine.
He had that soccer-style kick for sure.
Yeah, he did. But all week he's been making. I think if he just relaxes and believes in himself and has a little bit more confidence and don't let the moment get to him, I think he's going to be fine.
So the Mini Bears drive that football all the way down. It was a great drive. I think it was at least 73 yards. I believe Middletown started at the 27-yard line. So Middletown leads at 20-8, 8:45 remaining in the third quarter. They've started the second half with a touchdown. McCray is at his 40-yard line getting ready to kick off. Milland is near his 25-yard line. Right down the middle. A nice kick by McCray this time, and Gandolfini takes it near the 7-yard line. He's at the 15 on the far side. He's got some running room. He's got McCray to beat on the left side before he's finally brought out of bounds near midfield.
Couple nice blocks by Pine Bush. I know Gunner Meland picked up a nice block and really nice run. It was a great kick by Jermaine.
There is a flag on near the 30-yard line. It's going to push back Pine Bush, so that'll negate the big return by Gandolfini.
Gandolfini had a great catch there, too.
That was over his shoulder. That was a Willie Mays-style catch. I thought for sure it was headed into the end zone for a touchback.
Yeah, and this is another area, Mr. Estrada, that the coaches have been working hard on, and I know it's tough in 10 days without doing double sessions, working on all your special teams. And I think that for the most part, both teams have been doing fairly well in that regard.
And you just reminded me that was the one penalty Middletown had, was blocking the back on special teams. 1st and 10 Pine Bush from their own 22-yard line. They give us up the middle to Meland. He does a nice job using those legs to push the Middletown line backwards. We'll see where they mark the football. It looks like it's at the 28-yard line. We'll call it 2nd and 4. Pick up a 6 for Meland.
It's great to see good sportsmanship out there, Mr. Estrada. Steeps picks up Meland after a hard tackle. I think that's a great sign of good sportsmanship on both teams.
Neighboring school districts, many of these student athletes know each other very well. A fumble on the exchange between Meland and DeGroot. Middletown pointing in their direction. We'll see what happens. It looks like the Mini Bears have recovered, and they have. I see a lot of high fives being given to Angel Ortiz, number 2.
Angel there again.
He's becoming a star here in the first game of the 2021 football season.
He's having a heck of a game today.
And this is a big drive here for Middletown to really put the hammer down. With 7:42 remaining, they lead it 20-8, and more importantly, they have a 1st and 10 at the Pine Bush 29-yard line.
Yeah, the Pine Bush defense needs to dig in here. It's a tough turnover for sure. Be great if Middletown can capitalize.
Howell under center, McCray in motion. He goes straight back to pass. Over the middle, wide open, touchdown, Middletown! Rodney Bell, 29 yards. It's a daily double, 29 yards in the first half for a touchdown and 29 yards in the second half for another Rodney Bell touchdown.
Beautiful ball by Dalton. He got back, got set up, and delivered a great ball. And that was a fantastic route by Rodney on the post play. Beautiful.
The diversity of the offense is coming to fruition here at Middletown. Both the running attack is working and the passing attack is working, and that typically leads to a big lead, and that's where we're at. Angel Ortiz once again. We have a miss on the extra point. That's okay. That'll give Coach Trentful something to work on during the week.
That's okay.
7:34 remaining in the game. In the third quarter, that is. The Middy Bears have now extended their lead 26-8. And when you have kind of a one-dimensional attack, as Pine Bush does, it makes coming back from huge deficits that much difficult.
Very difficult with the offense and what they're trying to do. And, again, coming off of a short, period here of 10, 12 days of trying to get things established offensively, going to be very difficult with this lead.
Middletown has several home games in a row. Next week, who do we have, Coach?
Valley Central Vikings coming into town.
You know Valley Central very well.
I do. I'll be pushing that game out to my dad down in Florida. He's got the link tonight, so I'm sure he's watching.
Milan from the 28 with a good return on the far side. He's finally pushed out of bounds by Cameron Pagan.
Going back to that touchdown play, I think, Coach Strenfeld saw that in the first half where he thought he might be able to get an isolation with Rodney, and I know that Coach Ormsby saw that, and they made a great call and fantastic play at the right time.
Well, I said on air during his first touchdown that I will take Rodney Bell one-on-one against a secondary defender any day of the week, because he can easily sidestep one, and then he had the second effort at the 5-yard line to finally push it in.
He can catch the ball, he can run the ball, he's multi-tooled athlete, which is fantastic for Rodney. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him.
1st and 10 Pine Bush at their own 45. They give us to Garmendez on the near side. He's got some running room. He's finally brought down by Thompson in Middletown, not before he gets into the Middletown side of the field. First time that the Bushmen have been on the Middletown side here in the second half. Actually, Jagger Blauvelt with the tackle for Middletown.
Nice tackle coming up from his safety position, doing what he should do, coming up through the alley and made a nice tackle.
Garmendez picked up 6 on the play. 2nd and 4 for Pine Bush at the Middletown 49-yard line. This is a big possession offensively for the Bushmen, who find themselves down by 18 points. Again, Garmendez on the near side, this time number 54. Middletown with the stop, James Cintron.
Markel Thompson made him bounce it outside. I thought he did a nice job. He just got to get in better position to make a tackle for a loss. But Middletown rallied to the ball. Very nice play on second down.
3rd and 3, and when you're down 26-8 and you're on the other team's side of the field, you're probably calling this 4-down territory for Pine Bush.
You got that right, Coach Estrada.
Trying to fill in for Coach Woolslayer. I know he's watching out there for us.
I know he is. I had a great conversation with Coach Woolslayer today. I know that he wanted to be here with you for sure.
But first and foremost, we want Coach to stay safe.
Absolutely.
So that's a first down carry. Picked up 4 yards for the first down by Meland. 1st and 10, Pine Bush from the Middletown 44-yard line. 5:46 remaining, and the clock running in the third quarter. Middletown leading Pine Bush 26-8. DeGroot, the quarterback for the Bushmen under center, gives it to Meland right up the middle. And he is a punishing runner, Meland. 3 yards on the pickup.
We knew that coming into the game that he was good. They were going to give him the ball quite often. But now that you see him coming off a year, he's gotten bigger and stronger and faster, and you can see it. You're giving him the ball. He's the best athlete.
2nd and 7 for Pine Bush from the Middletown 41-yard line. Give once again up the middle. I saw something fly. Was that a late flag? Yep, the official's walking over. Personal foul. It's a face mask against the Middy Bears. That's going to add 15 yards to that end of the Meland run. It'll give the Bushmen a first down deep into Middletown territory.
Going deep into the third quarter here.
4:38 remaining in the third quarter. First and 10 from the 23-yard line. A receiver to the near side for the Bushmen. DeGroot under center. Meland's directly behind him, but the give, it's to Meland. Just off the right tackle. Pickup of about 4 yards for Meland.
In this offense, 4 yards on first down is actually really, really good.
It's like that Army offense.
Absolutely.
The coach from Army always said 4 yards of pickup, we get a first down every time.
That's right. Now they're in 4-down territory. We got our work cut out for us to keep them out of the end zone.
Middletown may be trying to see if they can turn the ball over here. The Bushmen have had some trouble with exchanges and pitches. Meland, there's the pitch. Boy, Meland looked like he got through that front line again, but this time they pitched the ball back to Garmendez.
Great fake to Meland.
It's going to bring up a big third down. 3rd and 5.
Big play here for the Middletown defense right here.
Ball's at the 17-yard line. Only one receiver to the near side. He's being defended by Angel Ortiz of Middletown.
Who else but Angel?
That's right. Garmendez on the far side. This time Middletown snuffs it out and stops them. Picked up maybe a yard to the 16. It's going to bring up 4th down.
Host of Middletown tackles. You got to love to see that when kids are rallying to the ball.
We have a player down on the far side. And it's not the running back because Garmendez is back in the huddle. We'll see if we can get a name for you on the far side. And it is Garmendez, number 24, the running back. That would be difficult for Pine Bush as they've already had a starting running back go down in the first half in Christian Walker, and Garmendez has done an outstanding job so far for the Bushmen. So 4th down and about 3 yards to go for Pine Bush.
He was having a great game, too. Hopefully he's okay. Looks like he got off to the sideline okay.
You can honestly say it's Middletown 26, Garmendez 8, because he's had all of the points for Pine Bush in this ballgame. 4th and 3. Let's see if the Middy Bears can come up with a big defensive stop here late in the third quarter. 2.5 remaining. The give to Meland up the middle. And it looks like he's got just enough yards. Looks like he picked up 4, needed 3. And it's going to be 1st and 10 for Pine Bush from the Middletown 12-yard line. Got to give Pine Bush credit. They've answered the long Middletown touchdown drive with one of their own so far. It hasn't culminated in any points. We'll see if the old adage of bend but don't break comes into play here for Middletown. DeGroot. Hand off to a new running back with Garmendez out. Number 34, Jack Gandolfini, with his first carry of the night. Picked up 2 yards to the 10, 2nd and 8.
Saquon is having a nice game. He's had a lot of tackles today. I know he's been in a lot of tackles and having a really, really nice game.
He's had a nice game. Ahmad Kelman's had a nice game. Let's see if they can continue that trend. 2nd and 8 for Pine Bush from the Middletown 10. Bushman trailing 26-8, a minute 16 remaining in the third. Number 22 this time with the carry, but Middletown's all over it.
Great play by Middletown. That's exactly what you needed on inside the 20.
Alex Piccolo, number 22 with the carry. No gain on the play. It's going to bring up 3rd down. Isaiah Jackson with the defensive stop for the Middy Bears. We have an official time. We think we have another player down for the Bushmen. It's been a tough go here for Pine Bush, who had us, one of the things I've been impressed with also, talking here with our athletic director, Mr. David Coates, is the numbers. You have strong numbers that came out for the football program.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I credit the coaching staff on that, going out and recruiting the kids, and the kids' motivation to actually get out here and talking to a lot of the kids, during the tryouts. We had over 95 kids try out for this varsity team, and now we're down in right in 52, 53 kids. But we had to pare down because we're only hosting the varsity team this year. So very, very difficult decision, but we know that we're going to take care of the kids, the JV kids, directly after this season, and head into the off season and ultimately to hopefully a regular fall.
The pitch back to number 22. Piccolo on the carry, down near the 5-yard line. He's going to be short of a 1st down, but this is definitely 4-down territory for Pine Bush. No field goals here when you're down 26-8.
Big play here for Middletown. If we can hold them out here, get the ball back, and we're heading into the 4th quarter. It's looking pretty good. We got to take care of the ball, and really time is on our side here. Between
quarters, I'll ask Mr. Coates about the spectator policy here during our games. 4th and 5. The pitch back for Pine Bush, and a beautiful play.
Good job, Middletown.
We'll see. It looked like number 64. Yep, number 64 for Middletown. That was Ahmad Kelman, who we talked about a few minutes ago.
He's been all over the field.
Middy Bears
all over the field.
Yep. 2 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Middletown does a nice job, as we mentioned earlier, bending but not breaking on that long drive, which has to be demoralizing for Pine Bush after driving the football down from their own 22-yard line all the way down inside the Middletown 10-yard line.
You hit the nail right in the head, bend but don't break. Defense there by Middletown, but it was valiant drive by Pine Bush. Bushman didn't materialize any points, so that's pretty disheartening for them. We got to take care of the football here.
One wide receiver to the left. That was Thompson in motion. It's caught Pine Bush in the pass. McRae this time with the handoff. Tried to cut it back to the side he came from, just like Angel Ortiz in the first half. Not as successful, but that'll end the 3rd quarter here. And a great quarter for Middletown as they extended their 14-8 halftime lead. Middy Bears with 2 touchdowns on the board that half have extended their lead to 26-8 after the 3rd quarter. And Coach Coates, can you tell us a little bit? I believe the policy is two representatives per player, I think is what you were striving for from an attendance perspective. Just if you can kind of clarify that for the audience who's wondering when they can watch a Middletown game, if ever, for this year.
Our Board of Education, our Superintendent, Mr. Del Moro, and, the administrative staff at the high school, including myself, we had to look at the policy that's in place by the New York State Department of Health. And we know that that's 2 spectators per athlete, and we and our cheerleaders as well. But we were a little bit more restrictive here at Middletown. The main goal for this whole season, for our fall 2 season, is really for the kids to be able to sustain their season and play every game. So that was our number 1 priority. And to do that, we had to limit, the exposure. And really that was to kind of just have our home spectators, parents, and, friends, but Middletown residents coming to the games for our athletes and for our cheerleaders. Unfortunately, we had to make the decision where we are not going to have, visiting spectators this year, but we can't wait to get back to.
And that's not unusual. That's pretty much the policy that's
standard,
being standard
a lot.
for everyone.
I mean, there's some schools that are allowing visitors, and I give them a lot of credit, but we're really focused on the priority of having limited exposure to our kids.
And plus, the visitors can always watch us on Middies TV as well, so they won't miss out on the action of their teams. Up the middle, on the handoff, 1st and 10, inside their own 10-yard line for the Middy Bears. A nice gain on 1st down. Markel Thompson with the carry.
And that's a really great point, Mr. Estrada. It's people like you that come out here and you make yourself available, and for Middy TV and the rest of our tech crew and our GERTechs to make that happen. To be able to do that for our community and other communities is so important, because we know how important it is. Some of these kids, they're seniors this year. It's their last time on the football field. They may not make it to college, to play athletics. Hopefully they're going to college. But, and I think our tech group does a fantastic job. Vesh, Paul, Brian, unbelievable job with setting up. This is our 2nd game. They were here doing the soccer game, the boys soccer game earlier, so they're setting up here around 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Getting ready for a 4 o'clock game, and now we're heading into, I don't even know what time it is.
Yeah, we have a great experienced staff here at Middletown. Great maintenance crew that will be here long after the fans leave, taking everything down, cleaning up the facility.
Sanitizing everything. They'll sanitize the bleachers, sanitize the benches, sanitize the locker rooms. It goes on and on and on, and what our staff does here to make this happen. And I think that is a credit to our team here in Middletown to make sure that we're limiting the exposure for our kids so that they can be out here playing on our field safely.
And we have about 150 fans. I'm sure that all of them are quite appreciative. It's gotten a little chilly here with some wind. We do have stoppage, 11:08 remaining in the 4th quarter. Ed Estrada, along with our athletic director, Mr. David Coates. Middy Bears leading it 26-8 after an outstanding 2-score 3rd quarter that helped them extend a 14-8 lead. It's going to be 3rd down and about 3 yards for Middletown from their own 14-yard line. My mind's lapsing because I thought it was 2nd down, but they have 3rd down. 3rd and 3, Middletown. Under center, quarterback Dalton Howell. That's Thompson in motion. They give on the inside handoff. We'll try to get a number here for you. That's McRae on the carry for Middletown. He's going to be 2 yards short of the 1st down. It's going to bring down 4th down. And the Middy Bears will have to punt from probably near their own end zone. We'll see how this goes. McRae's actually punted the football pretty well.
Oh, he has punted outstanding today.
Despite Middletown's kicking woes in regards to extra points, from a punting perspective, McRae's done quite well.
Fantastic job punting, and we got great snapping.
Meeland has set himself up for Pine Bush inside the Middletown side of the field at the 49. A good snap. Nice high kick. It's going to come up short, but take a Middletown bounce at the 45-yard line, and finally comes to rest at the Middletown 48-yard line.
And that was his worst punt of the night.
Yeah.
I mean, he's maybe getting a little tired, but the last play that he ran, he's all over the field, Jermaine. I mean, he's playing special teams, he's offense, defense. He's a very important part of our team. He's one of our leaders of this team, and I think that Jermaine would like to have that play back, as I think that he knows that he probably could have picked up that first down. But he's having a wonderful, wonderful game, and offensively and defensively tonight. And special teams.
1st and 10 Pine Bush from the Middletown 48 that gives up the middle. Nothing fancy for the Bushmen. About a 4-yard gain. Jason Cintron with the tackle for Middletown. 2nd and 6 for Pine Bush at the 44-yard line, just short of the 44-yard line of Middletown. DeGroot is the quarterback under center. Meland directly behind him, and the give is to Meland. Actually, no, the option is kept by DeGroot. Gives it to Garmendez on the far side, but Middletown does a nice job stringing that play along till it finally got to the sideline.
Fantastic job covering the option. It was a great fake by DeGroot.
Faked me
Meland.
out.
Yeah, it was a great fake. We strung it out with Jermaine and Jaden. Unbelievable job. That's how you want to cover the option.
No gain on the play. Pine Bush very quickly faces a 3rd down and 6 from the Middletown 44-yard line. DeGroot under center for the Bushmen. Meland is behind him. Garmendez in motion. There's a pitch to Garmendez. What a job. What a play.
Blauvelt.
Number 9 for the Midi Bears, Jagger Blauvelt with the tackle.
Great play by Jagger coming up from a safety position, just how you draw it up. Nice read by him coming up in the alley, making the tackle. Great form tackle by Jagger.
That'll make the Blauvelt family highlight reel. 4th down now for Pine Bush at the Middletown 43.
Yeah, Mr. Blauvelt was the first spectator here. I think he came in around 2:30.
This time the give is to Garmendez.
It's nice to see him back on
And
the field.
there's a loss. Loss of about a yard, and for the 2nd consecutive Pine Bush drive, Middletown holds on downs, and the Midi Bears will take over the ball with 8:45 remaining in the game. They're leading it 26-8. It'll be 1st and 10 Midi Bears from their own 42-yard line. We want to remind everybody out there in Midi TV land, next week the Midi Bears will host Valley Central. Once again, no spectators are permitted in the facility due to the pandemic, so we hope to have you out there in Midi TV land. Head on over to the website, www.middletowncityschools.org, and hit the Midi TV icon, and you're well on your way for live streaming Middletown football against Valley Central next Friday evening at 7 o'clock. 2 receivers on the near side for Middletown. This time it's handed off to number 3. That's Zion Roberts along the far side. He's got some good running room and lunges forward for a 1st down. Nice job by Roberts.
Nice cutback by Zion. He did a fantastic job there. Another one of our great athletes from last year, and an outstanding track athlete too. Nice to see him get an opportunity to run the ball.
And nice to see Middletown kind of keep the momentum from 2019 going. I know we had some issues with eligibility, but we were 6-0 in 2019 and well on our way to being one of the best football teams in New York State back then.
7-0.
7-0, that's correct. Dalton Howell this time from the shotgun, but hands the ball off up the middle. Gains about 2 yards. McCray.
Yeah, the 2019 will go down in our history as one of the best Middletown football teams that we've had here in a long, long time. And what they accomplished last year was nothing short of outstanding.
And that's been extended here in now 2021. You know, also an extension of the JV team who had an outstanding year in 2019 as well.
Absolutely. The foundation is built by Coach Strenfeld and his staff, and the kids are bought in. and they're doing what they need to do to continue the tradition of winning.
2nd and 8 for Middletown. Looked like a missed handoff there between Thompson and Howell, so it'll be a loss of 2 yards. Deion Coughlin with the tackle for Pine Bush. Loss of 2, 3rd and 10 for Middletown from the Pine Bush 47-yard line. We'll give a shout-out to that Middletown coaching staff. It's the head coach, Tim Strenfel, assisted by Chris Conklin, Rich Ormsby, Bobby Mangano, Jason Lichtenstein, Tom Giordano, and Shane Regan, as well as Mr. Ed Tucker and Mr. Tom Willard. Nice job by that Middletown coaching staff. Back to pass. Howell going down the middle. He's got Bell one-on-one. Almost comes up with the play. Nice defensive coverage there by Pine Bush. But as we've mentioned a couple of times, you like Rodney Bell's chances one-on-one.
I do.
And despite the tight coverage, he almost came down with that ball.
Dylan DeGroot had a nice play. He played that really well as a right corner. Rodney made a great play on the ball,
and it's tough when you know the football's coming at you, because he knew 3rd and 10, one receiver, it was going to be Mr. Bell, and it was up to him to stop him.
Not a bad place to go. Here goes Jermaine again. He's been a big, this punting team is a great unit tonight, and won field position battle.
Good snap. Will punt the football from his own 40-yard line. Nice high kick, allowing his team to get back on coverage, and a good roll by Middletown down to the 25-yard line.
He has gotten the rolls tonight. Going back to our coaching staff, and I think it goes to, with consistency is the big word here, and I think that the more we have consistency with our staff, that permeates throughout the whole entire program, and the kids really need that, and once you create the consistency and you build that foundation, it breeds success. Now,
Coach Coates, there are no state playoffs this year, correct, in football?
No state playoffs, and unfortunately, we just got the news about a month ago that New York State Public High School Athletic Association has canceled the spring championships as well. So it leads us to our spring season. Hopefully, get back to a little bit more normalcy where we can concentrate on our sectional championships.
Back to pass for one of the few times is DeGroot, and he's not in a position to typically do that. And number 75 for Middletown, Isaiah Jackson, in that was part of the backfield for the Pine Bush side.
Oh yeah, no, it was a great rush. And then just talking about the spring season a little bit more, we were slated to host the track and field championships this year.
We did mention that.
And unfortunately, we were all ready, and obviously see our track right now. It's all resurfaced. Thanks to our Board of Education and our community, and our field is brand new as we kind of unveiled it last year, but the resurfacing is this year. We got our new blue and our D sections, which I think is pretty sharp. Yep. I give hats off to Copeland Coating. They did a fantastic job for us here in Middletown.
Well, it'll be ready for 2022 when we do host the championships. There is a timeout. Delay a game. Actually, that's the 4th delay a game against Pine Bush. Middletown, I talked to Coach Ormsby before the game, and he was a little concerned about the play clock because they've only had 11 practices, no two-a-days, and getting those plays in time. But we haven't had one single delay a game for the Middletown side, whereas Pine Bush has had 4 this evening. Meland with the carry on the far side. He's at the 25, the 30, and gets out of bounds after gaining the first down at the 36-yard line.
Great run by Gunner. He noticed it wasn't inside, and he bounced it outside, and he turned on the jets.
I'm a little surprised he hasn't done that more, especially since it looked like Middletown has pretty much bottled up the inside running lanes.
Taken care of it, and then our outside linebackers have been doing a good job on the outside.
Yep, on the option especially.
They just lost the contain on that play, but
there's a fumble on the play. The Mini Bears should recover. We'll see. No, it looks like Pine Bush recovered it. Wow. DeGroot recovered his own fumble. I could not tell if he pitched
Jackson
it to,
almost picked it up for Middletown, unfortunately.
I couldn't tell if that was a pitch that went awry or whether he just lost the football. 5:40 remaining. The clock is running here at Fowler.
Mr. Estrada, I'm going to go down and, now that we're almost 5 minutes, I'm going to go down to the field side. And I just want to say thank you to you and the rest of the staff and everybody on our team that makes this thing happen. It's a great team, and I really appreciate all your efforts in putting this on Midi TV. So
and thank you for the opportunity to have us help you out as well. We want to thank Athletic Director David Coates for joining us in the second half and saving some of my voice as we march down to a Middletown win to start the 2021 football season. The Midi Bears leading it 26-8 with just under 5 minutes remaining and the clock running. Next week, you heard Coach Coates mention that the Midi Bears will be home to Valley Central. Again, no spectators, but you can catch us on Midi TV by going to the website at www.middletowncityschools.org. Hit the Midi TV icon, or you can go right to the YouTube channel, search the Midi TV, and subscribe. It's free, and you'll be live streaming. Before you know it, a big tackle, a big hit, a big fumble, and a big recovery by guess who? Number 2, Angel Ortiz, once again with a crunching hit. Ortiz, one of the smallest people on the field. Unfortunately, on the play, it looks like Garmendez is coming up limping and getting some help from the trainer. But that was an outstanding hit, a good hit by Ortiz on the near side. And we want to give just due to Kyle Scott, number 16, with the hit helping to force the fumble, and then Ortiz recovering for Middletown. Once again, the Midi Bears leading at 26-8, 4:29 remaining in the game. We hope to see you, everybody, on Midi TV land next week when Middletown will take their 1-0 record and host Valley Central. So it'll be 1st and 10 for Middletown. With 4:29 remaining, they'll have the football at the Pine Bush 32-yard line, looking to put the cherry on top here at Fowler Field. There was a delay of game there against Middletown, taking them back 5 yards. It'll be 1st and 15 from the Pine Bush 37-yard line. After the game, we'll have a brief wrap-up. Mr. Shuko will join me once again with some stats from the Middletown side of the field. Dalton Howell under center. The give up the middle. A good hit by that Pine Bush defensive front line. Number 24 for Middletown is Josh Soder, who has a touchdown in the game from 10 yards out, along with 2 from Rodney Bell and 1 from Hal to Jaden Farrell. Clock's running, 4 minutes left here at Fowler. And an 18-point lead for Middletown. 2nd down and about 14. We'll call it 13 from the Pine Bush 35 for the Midi Bears. Ortiz off the handoff, trying to get down the near side. Cuts back inside the 30-yard line to the Pine Bush 20. They're going to mark him right at the 30-yard line, actually. That's a pickup of 5 yards. 3rd and about 8 yards from the Pine Bush 30. They need to get to the Pine Bush 22-yard line for a 1st down. Bell coming back into the game. Zion Roberts coming out. Not sure if Middletown's going to get this ball off. There's 8 seconds left on the game clock. There's a fumble, but Hall picks it back up. Going to the end zone. He's got Bell! Almost came down with it, but number 22, Alex Bucolo for Pine Bush, had the deflection, and it stayed up just long enough for Bell to make a second effort at it. Without success, 4th down now for Middletown. 8 yards to go from the Pine Bush 30-yard line, and they're going to go for it. 2:48 remaining, 26-8 Middletown over Pine Bush. Bell one-on-one on the top, and number 10 for Middletown, Jaden Farrell on the near side. Back to pass his house, straight back. Going for Bell again in one-on-one coverage. He's got the football, and he's got a touchdown. Rodney Bell with the trifecta for the Middy Bears. The only downside was it wasn't from 29 yards. This time it was from 30. The hat trick for Rodney Bell. As we mentioned, you love the one-on-one coverage. We'll take it all the time for Rodney Bell. 3rd touchdown from Dalton Howell. Middy Bears now lead it 32-8. They're in for the extra point. Angel Ortiz trying the PAT for Middletown. Takes his time. The ball is up, and it just hits the crossbar. No good. Well, Coach Strenfeld will have something to work on at least during the week. 32-8 Middy Bears leading Pine Bush. 2:39 remaining in the ball game. Section 9, beware. Dalton Howell, Rodney Bell, a trifecta. The only difference being 1 yard between all three. The first 2 touchdowns were 29 yards out. This last one from 30 yards out. Mixed in on the opening drive of the game, a 10-yard pass from Howell to Jaden Farrell. And then a Soder 10-yard run. And the Middy Bears have 32 up on the board to Pine Bush's 8. It's almost like that 2019 season's been extended by 2 years for Middletown. It'll be interesting to have Mr. Shuko here in our short post game just to go over some of the stats. I'll be interesting to see what the line is for Mr. Bell. Not to put any pressure on Mr. Shuko to have those numbers ready for us. Ortiz kicking off for Middletown. The squibber down the near side goes out of bounds. That'll be a penalty. Ball went out of bounds at the 35-yard line. There is a flag on the play, procedure against Middletown. It'll likely be waved off or declined by Pine Bush. Here's the official getting ready to give us the indication. It'll be 1st and 10 for Pine Bush at their own 35-yard line. The Bushmen trail Middletown 32-8. 2:39 remaining in the ball game. Middletown with 26 unanswered points. Garmendez has the football for Pine Bush. The one bright spot here for the Bushmen has been number 24, Edward Ryan Garmendez, who's had several nice runs, including a long 64-yarder, as well as their lone touchdown and 2-point conversion. DeGroot under center for the Bushmen. The give is to Meland up the middle. Shakes a few folks and is still on his feet into Middletown, nearly in the Middletown territory, just short at the 49-yard line. Marquez Thompson on the stop for the Middy Bears. Garmendez in motion, but the give is to Meland up the middle. In the Middletown territory as the clock continues to run, 1:43 remaining. The results not in question here at Fowler. It's a blowout for Middletown. They're leading at 32-8, 1.5 remaining here in the fourth quarter. Second down and about 5. We'll call it 2nd and 4. For Pine Bush. This time the option. DeGroot pitches the ball out to number 22, Alex Bucolo. Picked up a yard for Pine Bush. Going to bring up 3rd down and 3, a long 3, as the clock is under 1 minute left here at Fowler. We want to thank, again, our GERD techs, Mr. Paul Fox and Mr. Brian Seaback, as well as Kevin Moore and Alana Zeladuk, helping us out here in the press box, bringing the live stream action to you folks here at our Middletown community. We want to thank all of you for your support here on Middy TV. We hope to see you next week as well as the Middy Bears take on Valley Central. Give up the middle, Meland, a nice gain, enough for a Pine Bush first down inside Middletown territory. The clock stops for the chains to be moved after the first down. 1st and 10, Pine Bush at the Middletown 35. Bushmen don't seem too energized. They'll probably get off one more play here. Garmendez in motion, and the pitch is to Garmendez. Nice tackle for Middletown after a nice gain on first down, but that's going to be the last play here at Fowler Field. Your final score, Middletown 32, Pine Bush 8, in the opening game of our football season here at Middletown. As I fist pump Mr. Jaden Farrell's dad out here behind me. Nice job by his son this evening. Jaden catching Middletown's first score of the season this year, a 10-yard pass from Dalton Howell. And also caught a 2-point conversion later on after a Rodney Bell touchdown as well. Your final score here at Fowler, Middletown 32, Pine Bush 8. Next week, the Middy Bears will take their 1-0 record right back here to Fowler as they host Valley Central. It'll be a 7 o'clock start once again due to the pandemic. There are no spectators other than each player receiving 2 representatives that they can invite to the games. So we have about 150 folks here at Fowler. We'll be joined here shortly by Mr. Jeff Shuko. A great job by the Middy Bears this evening to open up the 2021 season. A rough start for the Bushmen, who go to 0-1. Their lone touchdown coming on a 14-yard run by Edward Ryan Garmendez. Garmendez had an earlier 64-yard run that got him deep into Middletown territory, and then Garmendez capped that off with a 2-point conversion. That happened after an initial touchdown by Middletown on their opening drive. A nice mix of run plays and passing by Middletown, a dynamic offense for the Middy Bears. That first score, again, 10 yards, Howell to Farrell, giving Middletown the early 6-0 lead after the missed extra point. We just spoke to you about the Pine Bush touchdown, and then Middletown capped off the first half on a 29-yard touchdown pass from Howell to Rodney Bell. Angel Ortiz having a couple of big runs during that drive. The 2-point conversion by Farrell gave Middletown a 14-8 lead in the first half. And then after that, Mr. Shuko, it was nothing but Middletown in the second half with a strong third quarter. It became the Rodney Bell show in the second half.
It really did become the Rodney Bell show. And thank you, Mr. Estrada, for putting me on the spot. I mean, I did one job, and then I hear you say, I hope you're adding up things. I mean, I can do one thing at a time. You can't get me to do 2 or 3 things at a time, but I did add them up. Dalton Howell was extremely efficient, finishing 5 for 11 for 96 yards and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, it was the Rodney Bell show in the second half. He had 2 touchdowns in the second half, one of 29 yards and one of 30 yards. Bell finishes with 4 receptions for 87 yards and 3 touchdowns. We can't forget about Jaden Farrell, had a reception for a touchdown. He also had a 2-point conversion. Rodney Bell also was a key factor in the ground game. He had 4 carries for 52 yards, a 13-yard average. I mean, you can get him out on the edge too.
So that's 130 all-purpose yards.
130 all-purpose yards. You also have Josh Soder bangs a touchdown in from 8 yards. The Middies did a lot of great things on the ground and in the air, and they really, for a team that only had 11 practices, as you said, only, with the pandemic and everything, they really did a fantastic job tonight, almost a nearly flawless performance. And, you look at it, and hopefully the Middies can build on this and go into the game with Valley Central with amazing forward momentum.
And we're going to finish it off by also giving props to the Middletown defense, especially the front line, who really held Pine Bush for the most part in check. They have a vaunted running attack, and they still have it with Meland and with Garmendez. Unfortunately, they had Christian Walker go down early. So Pine Bush is still going to run the football very well, but Middletown, with the exception of that 164-yard touchdown, not touchdown, but 64-yard run that they gave up to Garmendez, really kind of kept them in check. They bended a couple of times, but they never broke, and the result is a 32 to 8 victory for the Middies Bears.
The defense was fantastic. A few standouts on the defense. Number 50, Jason Cintron, had a few tackles for loss. He was definitely in there.
Ahmad Kelman
played a fantastic game. Jaden Farrell chipped in with a fumble recovery.
Isaiah Jackson,
yep. Angel Ortiz. And the Middies did a fantastic job of controlling the line of scrimmage, because that's the key with Pine Bush is they're going to run the ball. And if they can control the line of scrimmage and they can get a hat on a hat, they're going to have success running the ball. But the Middy defense did a fantastic job of not allowing them to do that. And outside of the 164-yard run by Garmendez, and then he had, I think, a 10-yard touchdown run.
Correct.
Outside of those two, the Middy defense did as good a job as you could ask in stopping Pine Bush's run.
Meland was a workhorse
offense
for Pine Bush as well. But again, it's tough when you're a one-dimensional team, and when you get behind by a lot of points, that one dimension, if it's on the ground, is difficult to come back from.
Absolutely. And, Pine Bush did a fantastic job. Gunnar Meland is a wonderful player. He's a great talent. The Meland family is a very big athletic family in Pine Bush. His brother Hakan played center field for the baseball team. He was a guard on the basketball team. He was the quarterback for the football team, and he played a number of years for Pine Bush. And then you have Gunnar Meland, who played for Pine Bush, and he did a great job. Christian Walker did a good job in a limited fashion before he got injured. And for Pine Bush, you just build on the strengths that you have.
Like we said, they've only had 10 to 11 days of practice. So we're going to wrap it up here at Fowler Field. I want to thank our public address announcer and our statistician as well, Mr. Jeff Shuko, for helping us out with both halftime and final game stats, as well our athletic director, David Coates, for helping us out with some color commentary in the second half. Your final score from Fowler Field, 32-8, Middletown over Pine Bush. The Middies Bears will be in action 1 week from tonight at 7 o'clock against Valley Central. No spectators are allowed, so we hope to see you out in Middy TV land. Just sign on to the Middletown School District website at www.middletowncityschools.org. Hit the Middy TV icon, or you can go right to YouTube and hit the search engine for Midi TV, and you'll be well on your way to live streaming Middletown
Yes,
football.
thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for all your support. We hope that you join us back here again real soon. We'd love to have you in person, but unfortunately, due to circumstances, we cannot. So we look forward to seeing you on Midi TV. Thank you very much. We hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend. Thank you very much, Mr. Estrada, for inviting me into your booth to, discuss a little football this evening.
Absolutely. Have a good night, folks.